Hello, everybody, and welcome to another NPCs Weekly News Roundup. It is January 13th, 2023, and tonight we'll be talking about modern, jeez, got modern on the brain there. We'll be talking about Mortal Kombat 2's source code coming out and reveals a bunch of cut details, including a bunch of sprites that did not make it into the original release of the game. We'll also, of course, be talking about Ubisoft canceling a bunch of different titles, including pushing out Skull and Bones into potentially next year. And, of course, we'll also be talking about the potential of Sony maybe having a new shooter in the works. When you see the clip, you might think of an original series potentially coming back. That and more, of course, here on the NPCs Weekly News Roundup. And, of course, it is time to get right into it. Of course, I am Travis, and joining me live via Discord is that guy Kyle over there. Kyle, what's up, man?
No, nada. What's up?
Well, dude, I'm going to adjust your face here a tiny bit on the live stream. There we go. Perfect. I fixed your face. Not that it was broken. It was just Discord was misaligned.
My face is always broken. It's okay.
You know what? I'll give it to you there. So here we are, of course, to deliver the news, and we're going to hop right into it because this story might be a little bit longer to start off with, but it is Mortal. I can't believe I keep on wanting to say modern. It's Modern Warfare 2 is just
modern Mortal Kombat.
Modern Combat 2. Yeah. Mortal Kombat 2, the source code leaked out and has since been DMCA'd by Warner Brothers, the parent company of NetherRealm. But even though it leaked out, it was over the holiday, and it revealed a bunch of cut details and, more specifically, a bunch of sprites that we're going to be going through here, at least, and showing. But some of the details, of course, here is that over the holiday time period, though, Mortal Kombat 2 source code ended up on GitHub, had a lot of different polls, had a lot of different people taking it and going through it on their own before Warner Brothers threw a DMCA notice at it. And I believe that was mid last week to late last week on when that actually happened. And since then, of course, it's been polled. It's been reshared multiple times through different mediums and such. But yeah, we actually got to see or get to see here some interesting things that have been cut from Mortal Kombat 2. So I'm going to hop right over here to it from the Twitter thread here. So this Twitter thread, the original article we were referencing is from Kotaku, but this Twitter thread here they reference is from Pegasus Kid, a.k.a. their handle is @AnnoyingDog322, and they took the time to go through the actual source code itself and pull out a bunch of the sprite details and make it easier for us to see. There is a longer video referenced in the Kotaku article that's more of a deep dive of everything that's in the GitHub repo. So if you want to see that, you can go grab the link from there. But in the meantime, Kyle, we were talking about some of these sprites and some of these things that were in here. More specifically, I think what we were really focusing on is not necessarily the Johnny Cage stuff here, because it looks like he had a fatality of some type that was supposed to be in the game, but never actually made it to full fruition. It is fully animated out, fully fleshed out, just like the Mortal Kombat games of yore, where it was actually images and screen or like actual video of people playing as the characters, and then of course all that animated into controllable characters. But outside of the Johnny Cage stuff, I think one of the more interesting things we had here was, I'm going to scroll all the way down to it now, was Liu Kang's weird like leg thing. And I know everybody can see that here now, especially, is that it's this double knee animation. And so it's like I paused through the frames to see if I can catch it. I did it like once when I was trying to figure it out. But I know there we go.
It's like his leg breaks midway through or like at the very end of the kick.
Yeah, it's like almost what's happening more than anything is that it's like his foot goes flat instead, and like something in the way that they were importing the animation and that, like it was weird how like maybe the image was caught from the film camera, and like it's more so that his pants are cut off or something instead, like they're laying flat up against his foot instead. But just you watch this over and over again, and it's like, did he break like the middle part of his calf or something there, or the bone that runs through his calf? And just, is that it for Liu Kang? Is that it? I mean, obviously not, but I don't know, Kyle. Like, I mean, this source code dropped a bunch of things outside of the sprites, but was there another one that caught your attention out of all these?
Well, just the Liu Kang back fist, that kind of reminded me of like a later move from what was I saying? Pre-broadcast Night Wolf. from Mortal Kombat 3. Um, I don't know, the extra animation frames for moves and stuff, or some of the Raiden stuff, like the short lightning, or I don't know if that was supposed to be like a Sub-Zero move, but what they call it, the tornado or the twister, yeah, the tornado, but he like fires his uh I guess freeze downward. Looks kind of neat. I don't know what that was supposed to be in effect for. Maybe it was supposed to be before they decided to do the ice move where you jump away type thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe that could have been the case. It also, I mean, it really looks like it could have been still a Sub-Zero animation. It could have been any of the other characters though, because there's the not only the martial arts part of it, but there's also the mysticism and fantasy stuff that goes into it anyway, especially with Raiden and the lightning, Reptile with the acid spit and that too. So this could have been honestly like related to anybody, but it does give Sub-Zero vibes looking at it at least.
Yeah, and then of course there was the fatality animation for Johnny Cage that he's literally missing the entire back of his head, and they have sprites for the rest of them. So I don't know whose fatality it was supposed to be completing for. Um,
So it looks like what this
I think it's
fatality
Johnny
here.
Cage's cut fatality is what it looks like. The brain rip
Yeah.
from one of the earlier posts, but
Yeah, and
it
based on this, they according to what the Pegasus kid said is that they were all completed and ready. But it says
yeah.
seeing these, I can see why it was deemed too violent. Imagine how everyone would have reacted back in the day if they saw this. And of course, Mortal Kombat is known already for being pretty brutal anyway in its sense, and it's definitely gotten to be more brutal now, especially over the years with like their
Yeah,
X-ray.
and
But
this
I mean,
particular fatality, I guess, caused them to replace the fatality with a Mortal Kombat 1 fatality because of the violence. So
yeah, and it's interesting to see exactly
just insane.
how much of it was cut, especially like there's another Twitter thread here that was referenced I was reading earlier too, that apparently there was apparently going to be an early or alternate storyline panel, and so if I share this one here, let's see, where is it? It's that one here. It actually shows Shao Kahn the with what appears to be some sort of stepping stones and that into a portal. And apparently, though, is that Shao Kahn, I guess, I don't remember Mortal Kombat 2 because you got to think, you got to go back to like the Super Nintendo and Genesis era.
Hmm.
Um, but I believe the way that this was described originally looking is that it was Shao Kahn with just like flames behind him, not necessarily a portal to anywhere else. But it seems like there was some sort of additional storyline or something built out that could have played out in Mortal Kombat 2 that wasn't originally seen in the first place. So that would actually be pretty neat to see, like the fact that maybe there could have been more to Mortal Kombat 2 at that point in time, like more story development or something.
Right.
Yeah. Do they actually have it here? Let's see. Let's see. Although the alternate panel of Sindel's spurred lover looks the same as Mortal Kombat 2's final Shao Kahn attract mode screen, the unused artwork has a bunch of cloaked wizards on floating platforms in the background instead of a roaring fire. According to Polygon, the original artwork is more imposing because it illustrates how stacked the odds are against Earthrealm. That's from the Kotaku article.
Hmm.
But I mean, yeah, there's just so much out there, at least that we haven't even covered here. You know, at least looking at the sprites, because it's nice to see the animations and stuff, and especially with what happened behind the scenes. Serpent Knight here in chat adds martial artist Daniel. You have to forgive me if I'm butchering this. It's far enough away from me.
I think it's Piscina.
Yeah, I think it's Daniel Pesina got the digitized role of Johnny Cage, fresh off an extra role in the second Ninja Turtles movie. Huh. Interesting. Well, there's a little tidbit there for you,
Yeah,
Kyle. He went from
kind of cool.
Ninja Turtles to Mortal Kombat 2. So ninjas to ninjas. But with all that, though, it's like if you guys want to see more of this, you can go check out the Kotaku article and grab the link there to the different Twitter posts that we went through in tandem with the overview video that's up on YouTube right now. Again, that video is definitely more of a detailed deep dive into the source code for Mortal Kombat 2. I don't think anybody's going to be compiling this anytime soon, but hey, if you want to give it a try yourself, you want to try to figure out how you can get it, by all means, go for it.
Yeah.
Even with all that, let's carry on here to the next thing. And Kyle, I'm not really shocked about this story here, I guess, because we hadn't heard anything from him yet. Now we have. NVIDIA and Google have decided to go ahead and join on Sony's side in protesting the Microsoft Activision Blizzard King deal. So apparently Bloomberg, per this article from Video Games Chronicle, has said that both NVIDIA and Google have provided information to support the FTC's argument that the acquisition could give Microsoft an unfair advantage in cloud, subscription, and mobile gaming. It also says here, however, one source also claimed that while NVIDIA made a case for the need for equal and open access to games, it didn't directly oppose the acquisition. So that's interesting that Google and NVIDIA, who I at least from the surface haven't really worked together. We know that Google worked with AMD on Radeon cards in their systems specifically for Stadia, which is getting shut down here I think next week. But we we saw a lot of that with the AMD side though. So for NVIDIA to kind of be in on some of this, I don't know if it was a joint statement or what, is kind of interesting. But more so even the fact that NVIDIA says that there needs to be equal and open access to games, but doesn't directly oppose the acquisition. So maybe NVIDIA is looking for concessions. I don't know. Like, what do you think about that? Like, where do you see this play at?
I think it's really weird that NVIDIA to join the fight. I mean, they've got their GeForce Now service, but other than that, has it really been a competitor to cloud gaming for Microsoft? I mean, it's an entirely different thing.
Yeah,
because you have to have those games. You have to pay for the access through NVIDIA, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, exactly. You pay NVIDIA for a service to stream games from your existing libraries, from Steam, from Battle.net, from EA, from I think maybe Epic Games, maybe from Riot as well. And all of those games, more specifically, are built to be used on a computer more than they are, I think, like mobile devices. I believe like you can do it on Android and iOS, but it's definitely more so to be played in your standard like PC gaming fashion. Whereas, yeah, you're right. Microsoft's offer for Xbox Cloud Gaming is you don't have to own any of the games. You pay the subscription, you get access to the titles.
See, and I mean, I get maybe where it could be a little bit abrasive to NVIDIA, but I think more or less they're just looking for concessions because NVIDIA's been in the game for a long time. They haven't had a competitor up until Microsoft, really. When you think about it, I mean, Google Stadia didn't stand a chance. And as for Google, the only reason I can maybe think that they're trying to get a foot in the game now is because of Diablo Immortal, because of games like Candy Crush. Fear that they might be losing I guess a stake in purchases. The fact that people still have to pay them, what is it, 20 or 30% of every purchase, that they don't even know that they're paying Google when they make the purchase in game. If you make your 99 cents for an extra life or whatever, and all of a sudden 30 cents is still going to Google.
Yeah, that's a very good point. The other side of it, or the other part of it too, that we didn't you kind of started to get to there, but we haven't expanded on yet, is the fact that NVIDIA is worried about cloud. Microsoft's been in cloud for long enough now, though, too, like if not longer. And at the same time, with Google's standpoint on it, though, too, is that their gaming platform failed. Like Stadia flat out just failed, and it's getting shut. It's either already just been shut down, or I believe that's coming up maybe this next week. I don't remember, but it's very soon, if not already have happened here in January. So we're seeing a couple different things here. Like, we're going back again to cloud, subscription, and mobile gaming. So the cloud offering itself, though, the cloud part I could potentially see, but because the market is specifically in the gaming side of it for the cloud is one thing. The subscription part, okay, yeah, sure, because now Google is not able to take any sort of subscriptions now that Stadia is gone. They've got
Right.
subscriptions for other things, but the majority of the stuff that they offer is free anyway. You just pay with your data. And then the mobile gaming part, well, Google is a platform in the sense to play mobile games. If you look at Android, Nvidia has a mobile offering when it comes to playing games through GeForce Now. So,
Right.
they could be opposed. I'm really curious to actually see um, their details shared out. Like, I'm actually really hoping here at some time soon we can get information out. Like, here's their public release, even with stuff redacted. And that it's like, here is what they've had to say about their concerns about it. So all we have to
See,
go off of is just these bits and pieces right now.
right, and I'm kind of wondering if part of it is the fact that they'll be losing revenue from the fact that they won't have I mean they'll still be potentially hosting uh the Xbox cloud gaming service and stuff, but who's gonna host downloads for Diablo Immortal for Candy Crush? It's still gonna probably be hosted through Google because you're gonna have to download it through Google Play. There really aren't downloads per se through the Xbox cloud gaming service on your phone. So all the purchases and stuff are still going to be hosted through Google, but you're making them through Microsoft. And I think maybe that's where part of the hang up is the fact that, Google's worried about loss of revenue or, potentially a disruption in revenue because of it, or disruption in service in some form or another.
Yeah, that's also another part of it too that makes me wonder if it could be some of it. Now, I'm even thinking on Google's side is that Google, as a part of a deal with Activision Blizzard, is that Google became the home, more specifically YouTube did, became the home for
Mhm.
them streaming Call of Duty League and Overwatch League.
Oh,
And I think I wouldn't be surprised if Activision Blizzard actually signed a cloud hosting deal with Google that included part of that YouTube deal as well. So that way, like, games were like hosted in their cloud instance or something. Like, they were using their backend for multiplayer. They're using their backend as a caching system for their games to be distributed out. Something like that was also a part of kind of like the broader deal. And
right.
because that's a source of revenue for Google, and that could be coming into the cloud part here, is that, oh, they're just going to pick up and migrate all their stuff over to Azure now instead. Now Google's going to miss out on revenue because it's now all under one banner instead. So,
Mhm.
and I would kind of expect some of that anyway to be potentially there, but who knows? There might even be other concessions there that have to relate to the cloud technology to be supported first. It says it's like, well, you're going to own it, but you have to understand that it's like you need to host on, it's like you can't just host everything on Azure for X amount of years. You have to abide by these agreements, which Microsoft is good about doing, and then have to do it for so much longer post that agreement. There might be some
Right.
type of concession like that, I think, right off the bat. But that's about the only thing cloud wise I can really at least kind of put my finger on after we've been talking about it a bit.
Yeah, I don't know at this point. Like that sounds probably what's gonna have to happen, but I don't know. It's hard to say without Google and Nvidia being more forward about what type of concessions or what kind of disruptions this is causing for them. Um, I don't know. It it's going to be interesting to see where it goes, but because of everything and how rocky the year has already started with the deal, I could see this potentially not even completing throughout the, anytime this year, even at this point.
Yeah, I don't expect us to hit that June, July 2023 date for any of this. I think you're talking about the request for information, request for comment from stakeholders, at least as they represent the greater like tech community, tech and gaming community, and then you're talking about requests for comment from the um, from customers, from consumers, just like what we saw in the UK, where I think we had reported on it several weeks ago that it was like, what, 75% of UK respondents were in favor of the
Yeah.
acquisition. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly what that looks like. And obviously, of course, here in the US, I hate to say it, requests for comments from the general consumer always end up being a bloodbath, because you get people who create bots that just spam these awful comments in there that just flood the system, and it just normally never helps the process. So I assume that's coming down the line. They haven't said anything, obviously, yet that it is. But I don't know. Kyle, are you going to drop a comment on it if they do open up public comment?
Oh yeah, I think I'll drop a comment on it if they open it up. I don't know. I think, just as a kind of closing thing from me, is I think if we're still looking at that June-July time period, that I think is the time when we're gonna start looking at potentially the acquisition actually going through, or begin the process of going through, and it'll still take it through potentially the end of the year.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think we're going to have a little
Yeah.
bit more time to wait. And to be perfectly honest, that's fine. Let the process work itself out. And if it ends up being successful, okay, that's one thing. If not, I mean, we're still going to have games to play. We're still going to have things to play. You know, it's not the end of the world for us gamers if this doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving on to our next story, though, of course, is Ubisoft canceling several titles and pushing Skull and Bones release date again. So
Again.
so simple enough. Putting it out there is that it's gone ahead and killed another 3 games, including on top of the 4 that they actually, I guess, shut down last summer. Now, this is what annoys me, Kyle. Is apparently one of the 3 games that they canceled may have been the Splinter Cell reboot.
I've heard that. I know that what was it? One of the games that they had canceled previously was a VR Splinter Cell.
I think so.
So
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. Is Ubisoft really hurting that bad? I
Apparently it is. Apparently they are.
I honestly think it's because they've tried to do too much at this point, and they've put too much into Assassin's Creed. Personally, the fact that Skull and Bones is getting delayed again, that's totally ridiculous. We should have had this game like 2 years ago.
We really should have, yeah, because the game was originally announced, I believe, in 2017, and now it's
Hmm.
2023. And yeah, moving on to the Skull and Bones part, of course, with it having been announced as long ago as it was, where we're at now. Apparently, it's going to be part of the 2023-2024 fiscal year, which for Ubisoft is April through March, which means that we aren't going to be seeing this game until after the date that they had just announced recently, which was March 9th. So part of
Yeah.
it is that they've got a beta phase coming up here soon for the game itself. So the game isn't going to release in full. I would be surprised if they use March 9th as the beta date instead. Like they're just going to change that back around to being the beta date.
Hmm.
And then, yeah, I guess whatever other games are coming out, the Assassin's Creed titles we've got coming out, the partnership with what is it? Who is it in China that they're working with? Is it NetEase? Or is it? I don't think it's Tencent that they were working with in China on the mobile Assassin's Creed game. I thought it
Ooh, I
was.
think it was Net. I think it's NetEase.
I think so. I think it is NetEase as well. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and then of course we've. Besides that, one of the interesting things here is that um, they. It's not a part of this article here that we're referencing, which is from Engadget. But another thing in regards to Ubisoft is, and this makes me roll my eyes so hard, is
Mhm.
that the CEO of Ubisoft, and I always pronounce his name wrong, Yves Guillemot, he actually went ahead and made a comment about how the like basically how it's the responsibility for the like the success of the company, in the sense of like it's like if anything fails, it's your fault. You know, he's putting more focus on the and more like on the shoulders of the employees than he is himself as the leader of the company. Basically, it's more of a it's not going to be my fault, it's going to be your fault instead.
That's kind of shitty.
I'm going to try to find that article really quick. But yeah, I mean, just with that, what do you think?
You know, a good staff can't succeed without a good leader. Um, and obviously that sounds like a sign of weakness if he thinks he can just blame everything on his staff. But I mean, I think they need to look at what they've done with the company themselves, because Ubisoft is who puts out Far Cry, correct? Or
Uh,
is that EA?
no, it is. It is. Yeah. Yeah.
It is
It is Ubisoft.
Ubisoft.
Yeah, it is a Ubisoft title. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, uh, they had all this marketing for Far Cry 6, and the game really didn't hit home like they thought it was going to. But I think that they're running with played out ideas at this point. They're trying to lean too much into the fact that they've wanted to do these. Oh well, we want to make series that are gonna continue on. Assassin's Creed. Initially, they thought it was gonna be like a three game thing, and the only reason that they've kept with it is because they knew they could bleed the series out into infinity. Um,
Yeah.
I think Skull and Bones is on it. It's obviously just technically kind of a breakaway from that. The fact that what was it, Assassin's Creed 4 had such great success with Black Flag that they were like, so many people were excited about the ship combat that they wanted to do a game strictly about ship combat, and they announced that something like 6 months after Assassin's Creed Black Flag had been out. So, and then we heard about it in 2017 that it was coming out, but then it's been like radio silence except for, oh, it's delayed, oh, it's delayed, and it's delayed again. I think maybe the fact the thing that Ubisoft needs to do is they need to consolidate and focus. There's a lot of IPs that they have totally disregarded, and honestly, those are the IPs that people want to play. Your Splinter Cell, I think they've overlooked like Division. They've overlooked some of the other IPs that they have in their repertoire, and instead they've leaned way too heavily into Assassin's Creed. They've leaned way too heavily into some of these other IPs, and they're just not successful anymore because they've put all their eggs in one basket.
Oh yeah. Assassin's Creed has been that one for many years, and the fact that they haven't really sorted out what they wanted to do with it. Yeah. So apparently,
Well,
what?
and even with the new Assassin's Creed game, it they're making a big change to going back to the original. But is it too little, too late? I mean, this is a change that they should have made probably 3 or 4 games ago. You know, they should have had this refocus when Unity came out.
Yeah, and Unity was a problem anyway. I know that a lot of people liked the
Mhm.
game, but that game was so plagued with glitches and technical problems that yeah. So I found the stuff here from Yves Gamal in his in regards to the delays and cancellation stuff, and this one comes from Kotaku. He says, "Today more than ever, I need your full energy and commitment to ensure we get back on the path of success. I'm also asking that each of you be especially careful and strategic with your spending and initiatives to ensure we're being as efficient and lean as possible." Um, let's see. Apparently here, lots of publishers faced game delays during the pandemic, but Ubisoft was hit harder than most. Skull and Bones, Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora, and Assassin's Creed Mirage were all at one time or another expected to ship by the end of last year. Guillemot told staff that these delays have weighed on our cost and decreased our associated revenues. And they're expecting a almost $500 million loss for the fiscal year ending in March 2023 because of the delays. Um,
It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that they've announced like 6 Assassin's Creed games before they've even completed Skull and Bones.
yeah, exactly. So
I'm just saying.
yeah, so apparently here's the rest of what his message had said, and this one comes from trueachievements.com. Guillemot says, "The ball is in your court to deliver this lineup on time and at the expected level of quality and show everyone what we are capable of achieving. And they go on to say here in their article, Guillemot's words can be seen as potentially more problematic when viewed in the light of the discussion around crunch culture, which has resurfaced in recent years. For instance, Ubisoft's future success apparently requires a higher level of commitment from employees who are also simultaneously, expected to crack down on spending and initiatives, while Guillemot himself seems to sidestep his part in ensuring the company's success and lays the burden on the staff. So,
Yeah, that's personally the side of a weak leader. He puts everything on his staff and takes no flack for anything. He just wants to make calls and not suffer the repercussions of any decision that he makes and put it all on his staff. That's bad leadership, honestly.
100%. 100%. But the fact, though, the problem is that he isn't going to go because his family owns the majority of the company. So there's
Yeah.
not going to be a point in time we're actually going to see that change, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I feel for the staff, honestly. And I wish they had a better voice and a bigger voice in the company.
Same.
For someone to be able to stand up and actually say that, there's a reason Skull and Bones is getting delayed. There's a reason that we're canceling these titles, and that there's potentially a reason we should be looking away from Assassin's Creed, instead of looking to the future of Assassin's Creed for everything. I mean, one Assassin's Creed game every 3 or 4 years, I'd be fine with that. We don't need a new Assassin's Creed game every year, let alone two every year for the next four. So,
Yeah, we hopefully these next couple Assassin's Creed titles that are coming out are going to be enough to fill the gap. But yeah, let's get Ubisoft back to some of the things that it used to do instead of
mhm.
just Assassin's Creed and Far Cry every so often.
Agreed.
Yeah. But as we carry on, of course, let's talk about the next bit here in our news, and that is Xbox and Bethesda have announced what they're calling a developer direct. So they go on here in the news post on news.xbox.com, or also known as the Xbox Wire. January 25th is when they're going to be having this, and it's going to be giving fans an inside look at some of the games coming to Xbox, PC, and Game Pass over the next few months. So they're going to be talking with Arcane Austin, Mojang Studios, Turn 10 Studios, and ZeniMax Online Studios. And they're going to be focusing on titles such as Elder Scrolls Online, Forza Motorsport, Minecraft Legends, and Redfall. One of the more interesting things here, though, is that they have already announced that they will be doing a dedicated standalone show for Starfield sometime here in the near future. There were some people who were concerned about the fact that they had made no mention of Starfield being a part of this at all. For all the people to tune into this, and it's like, oh, there's no Starfield. Why did you mislead us? So this was Microsoft getting ahead of it to let fans know, hey, no Starfield news here. You're gonna have to wait for another one here after. Uh, but they're going to talk about a lot of different stuff here, at least in regards to it. Like, I'm excited about two of them more specifically. Forza Motorsport. I can't wait to see more of that one. And then, of course, more of Minecraft Legends, more specifically. Like, I played Minecraft Dungeons. I've played Minecraft for plenty of years, too. I'm curious to see more of Legends and see exactly more of what that's going to look like, especially if we get like what they say here, we're going to actually see exclusive gameplay footage during the direct as well too. What about you, Kyle? Out of at least the four they show here, maybe they're going to talk about some other games too. But what do you hope to see? Like, what are you excited about?
So I've always had a little bit of an interest in Elder Scrolls Online. So it's I always kind of like getting the news about that, even though that I've only played it a little here and there. I'm extremely excited about any news about a new Forza Motorsport game after the success of Horizon and seeing how well it did. I can only imagine what they're gonna do with the track scene, um, in the upcoming Motorsport game.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I'm kind of interested in finding out more about Redfall after finding out that it's more of like supposed to be a Far Cry style like looter shooter, instead of like a focused level by level with a hub world where you know gather your friends. There is actually a story and an open world to explore and areas to gather resources and loot in. So I'm kind of curious to find out more about that one actually.
Okay. Yeah, I think Redfall is going to look pretty good. Like, I'm kind of interested to see the kind of mix, of like being able to play in multiplayer but have vampires this time to worry about, or even
Yeah.
more of the different types of undead that aren't zombies or modifications of zombies. That's
Well, I mean, how long have we been doing the zombie thing? Yeah,
oh yeah.
it's too many zombies for too long. We need something else. Vampires is kind of cool.
Well, especially the fact that World War Z is supposed to have their new version released coming up here in the next 2 weeks. That's supposed to include that new like Horde mode X or whatever, where it's
Oh yeah.
going to actually increase the amount of zombies in those different hordes on World War Z up by like I think a factor of either it's like as low as 10 or up as like a factor of 100. It's going to be a lot.
Holy
It's
cow,
basically
that game had a lot of zombies
it's
anyway.
going to
I
have
mean,
more now.
yeah, I mean it was pretty close to what the effect of the movie gave you, but man, I can only imagine 100 times more. They would just be a sea of zombies.
I actually half expect my Series X in the midst of trying to cool itself to like take off. Like I imagine that
Eh.
if I can try World War Z with all that, I actually expect it to sound like a PlayStation 4 with the jet engine type fan on it, but for this one to actually truly force it to take off. I'm sure if I fed a little bit of fuel or something underneath there into the cooling fan, it would spark just right and I'd get a jet engine coming out of the vents on the top of the Series X. That would be an interesting one to explain to the wife because the Series X is in the bedroom right now. So,
Right?
that'd be a fun one. What are you playing over there? Why is the house on fire? Zombies, dear. Zombies.
Zombies.
But anyway, of course, it was a pretty quick one there. Could have been a quest marker, but hey, gave us a chance to talk a little bit more about it.
I just it's I don't know. It's worth the announcement. I mean, it's not too often that Microsoft does something like this. It's a little weird that they call it a direct since
Oh,
that's
yeah.
been Nintendo's thing for like what we're going on 6 years for the Switch, and I think they were doing directs even before the Switch. So that's a little strange for them to call it a direct, but
Right.
I don't know.
But I don't
Maybe
think,
they should switch back to showcase.
yeah, I don't think Nintendo has a copyright on like the direct or anything like that. So I know, trust me, when I heard it, I
Yeah.
thought the same thing, but whatever, let them have it.
Right.
All
Right.
right. And of course, with that, we move on to our last story in the main stories for tonight, for this week, actually, excuse me. And that is in regards to Sony may have a new third person shooter in the works. So this article is from Video Games Chronicle and was published on the 8th of January. And some footage was leaked out from an unannounced PlayStation shooter. Apparently, it's a sci-fi third-person shooter that is being developed in Unreal Engine 5. And according to, and this is from the article, it says notable leaker Dusk Golem has claimed they have seen a lot more of the game and that the footage is from an older build. It is claimed that the game is being worked on through XDev with an unknown external studio. So that's interesting for them to say. I'm going to bring this up here. Kyle, I know you have the link, of course, to the article there too. I'm going to bring this up and look at it. What I'm more curious about here looking at it, there's a little bit of sound and such. It's only 5 seconds, but could we possibly be looking at maybe a little bit of Resistance coming back?
That's almost what I had thought, and I was like, well, god dang, it's about time, honestly.
I only say maybe because it doesn't echo everything about it, but like I think
Yeah.
if you decide like maybe they want to take it to the next step to offer third person, or maybe the third person is just part of like a debug feature or something instead, I don't know. But it looks like it could be maybe something in that line. I don't know, but
Well, Resistance did have third person gameplay. I mean,
oh, did it?
I
I
want
only
to
remember it
say
being first person.
the PSP one, I want to say was third person.
Okay, you worked
And
for
actually
GameStop, so
it
I'll
was
believe you on
excellent.
that.
really
Okay.
long, great story. Um, I honestly think it's time for the Resistance games and shoot, even the Killzone games to come back.
We were just talking about
What
this
is
too.
Sony? Yeah, I know. What has Sony been doing? They're sleeping on these titles. And I know Resistance has a huge fan base that's been
We could
chomping at the bit for a new one.
Sony has the opportunity right now to bring back Resistance, Killzone, Mag, SOCOM, especially for the fact like between
Oh yeah, so calm.
between like Mag and SOCOM, especially the fact that it's like, all this argument with the Activision Blizzard stuff and Call of Duty and that. It's like you guys have that and you could still rely potentially on Battlefield as well too. So,
Yeah.
I'm throwing that one out there.
Well, and it's funny because,
Yeah.
Battlefield, Call of Duty, they're only starting to do something that Mag did on the PS3, and the Mag servers have been closed for quite a while. Granted, Mag did have some issues, There were missing animations for like reloads or like, shouldering your gun to go to like scope in and stuff, but it still had really good gameplay for as many players as you could play online. It was extremely smooth at times. Um, so I mean, Sony had that in the bag way before anyone did, and it's surprising that they haven't tried to return to that form.
I'm surprised that they haven't either, but I wonder if it's been such an obsession with some of the other things they've been working on internally, like especially with stuff like Horizon Zero Dawn, or even
Hmm.
the Horizon series as a whole, the Last of Us series. Uncharted hasn't had anything, at least specifically as related to the PlayStation 5 now, at least. God of War. They've been focused on first party titles, but it's like there's all these other ones that they haven't expanded out to that might be a boon for them. And I would love to see a
Well,
new Killzone. I'd love to see a new Resistance. Hell, I'd love a new SOCOM. But
right.
Sony's sleeping on it right now.
Yeah, and it's funny they've been focusing so much on these single player experience games, but a lot of the single player experience games, not in the recent generation, but in their previous generations, actually had multiplayer modes that people adored. Look at Uncharted. I know I got hooked on the Uncharted multiplayer for a little while. It was just fun. It was different.
Oh yeah, like I remember bits and pieces of it because I haven't owned a PlayStation since the PS2, but that doesn't mean I haven't played games on the PS3 or PS4. Um, but yeah, there's all these beloved things and beloved feature sets in these games that you won't see show up in other games because it's just if it does, it doesn't hold weight to what these previous titles had already done. So that's why, like watching that footage there, even though it's a 5 second clip, excuse me, gives me vibes of Resistance. That maybe Sony's finally realized, hey, let's go into the back catalog. What do we have that was popular? Oh yeah, Resistance was a great
Hmm.
title. Let's get that one rolling again and let's see what we can do to make that great. So who knows? Maybe it's like this only leaked out now because stuff's being reviewed again, and maybe we'll see something around E3 time. Who knows? I'm sitting here with like in a very impatient ADHD filled state, waiting to know more. So
Yeah, I don't know. The fact that Sony's just been so focused on this whole and not just focused like laser focused on the whole Call of Duty thing and the fact that they had exclusivity on some levels and some content for a full year in previous titles and they're afraid of losing it and you know Microsoft has had success with their first person shooters and their third person shooters. Why doesn't Sony look back and go, "Oh shoot, we got those too"?
oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I don't know. They I don't know why they are the way that they are. Like I
Yeah.
actually don't know. It really like bothers the hell out of me that they haven't sorted themselves out yet. So
But hey, I mean, Sony what got stake in
don't
Discord
do that.
how many months ago? Like 6, 8 months ago, and Microsoft has had Discord on the console since before the first of the year. Sony won't actually get it until the update coming later this month.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know either. But
pretty pretty bizarre.
it is.
But
It is, but hey,
I don't know.
5 seconds to just pour over and just to think about and to speculate with people online or speculate with us here, of course. Of course, again, it's only a 5 second clip. There hasn't been anything else shared out about it, but usually when one leak starts, another one springs up, and then it's just a whole flood of information. So we can only hope that maybe this got out there just because we are on the cusp of hearing more about a potential first-party shooter title coming from Sony. So, but with all that, that is it for the main stories for this week. And now we turn it over to Kyle to do the last bit of this week's news roundup, and that would be our portion called Quest Markers. So, Kyle, what do we have in the Quest Markers this week?
Yeah, so for our first quest marker for the week, TMNT Shredder's Revenge is coming out on mobile thanks to Netflix. That's right, the mobile and video basically watch service is bringing TMNT Shredder's Revenge to your phone as long as you have the service. Even I believe it's just the basic membership. You can go on to the mobile app, link through the app to the Google Play Store, and download TMNT Shredder's Revenge and play with your friends. So if you haven't checked it out, definitely check it out. It's an exciting blast from the past. Even though that it's a newer game, it's very reminiscent of Hyperstone Heist or Turtles in Time. So yeah, if you haven't checked it out, definitely do so. I want to say it's even up to 8 players, so
Awesome.
kind of cool. Yeah,
It is fun.
and in our next bit of news, Meta has announced that they are ending support for the original Quest headset.
Boo.
Yeah. In an email planning the changes to the headset, they have detailed the fact that you will no longer be able to join a party, or have access to Meta Horizon Home or the social features starting on March 5th, and eventually just taper off the rest of the services throughout the course of the rest of this year. So if you do have a headset, currently you can still use it. The apps are still available, and they will continue to support it with updates, but starting March 5th, you will notice that apps are going to start dropping like flies, unfortunately, for usage on your headset. So be aware of that, and I guess plan on spending the extra $100 that Quest said that the price adjustment on their Quest 2 was to focus on, let's see, I'll give you the exact quote actually. By adjusting the price on the Quest 2, we continue to grow our investment in groundbreaking research and new product development that pushes VR industry to new heights. We have ambitious VR hardware roadmap beginnings with the launch of our high-end headset, Project Cambria, later this year, and we plan to ship new generations of the Meta Quest after that. So I think this is just the end of the first generation of the headset, and more great things to come for Meta in the future, hopefully. And in our last bit of news, Steam hit a new record with over 10 million concurrent players. The actual time it hit, I want to say, was January 7th. They hit 32 million. Let me pull up the Steam DB myself because I had an extra graph. Yeah, it was 32,186,000 players, and then the following day actually topped it again by, I want to say, another 100,000 players almost. So congrats to Steam for hitting a new all-time high, and hopefully we can continuing enrolling new users with the Steam Deck out in the wild now. So, but that's it for the quest markers for this evening.
And because that is it for the quest markers, that means that is it for this week's News Roundup. Again, it is January 13th, 2022. So thank you so much for joining us on this Friday the 13th. Of course, if you missed out on anything here and you want to be able to take us on the go, be sure to subscribe to your favorite podcast platform or subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform of choice. We're on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it. But if you need to find out exactly where we are, you can check us out on our homepage, anchor.fm/the-NPCs-podcast. All the platforms we're supported on and our back catalog are all available on there as well. Be sure to subscribe to us here, of course, so that way when we go live, you'll know exactly when we go live, especially if you hit that notification bell. And be sure to follow us, of course, on social media. With all that said, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's News Roundup. We will catch you all next week.
Laters.